I got two questions for you, Mark. Didn't Trump say he would get Mexico to pay for the wall?
Sir, why don't you talk about what you told my producer you wanted to talk about before I give you the axe?
Okay, well, and my second question is the DOJ memos that
Mexico was never going to pay for the wall. If you listen to this program before, during, and after the election, I said so. Let me ask you a question, pal. Schumer voted to build the wall. How come he opposes it now? He voted in 2006.
He didn't agree to pay $5 billion for it.
No, he agreed to pay $25 billion for it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know so. What do you think they were going to build it out of? Sandcastles?
And also...
you can't answer that question, can you, Stephen? All right, next question. Move on.
The next question is the DOJ policy that sitting president can't be indicted. That's not constitutional.
No, you mean it's not in the Constitution, right?
Correct.
Well, you're right. So what?
So
that's the policy of the United States Department of Justice that applies to its employees.
That can change from administration to administration, so don't make it seem like it's...
Oh, so they should change... So you believe it should be retroactively changed for Donald Trump. Do you believe that in criminal law, basically?
No,
pay attention, I'm educating you. That, in other words, if a sheriff picks up somebody and he says, look, the law doesn't read the way I want it to read, so we ought to change it. This has been the position of the Department of Justice for 45 years, from Richard Nixon up through Trump. And you so hate Trump, you don't give a damn about the rule of law, the Department of Justice policies, or anything else, do you, Stephen?
No, I do care, but I want you to be consistent.
I'm very consistent.
No, you're not, because if this was Obama, you wouldn't be saying this stuff.
You wouldn't be saying what stuff? I never said indict Obama. Get off the phone, you idiot. All you're doing is talking about generalities and everything. You're not paying attention. You don't want to learn. Go back to Jake Tapper. He's your guy. I'm not your guy. Look, this show isn't for everybody. It's just not. Mr. Producer, did I ever say indict Obama? I don't know what the hell he's talking about. As far as Mexico paying for the wall, I'm the one guy that said Mexico will never pay for the wall. However, Schumer voted for the wall in 2006. Obama voted for the wall in 2006. What, they weren't planning on funding it? Then what was the last point? I didn't say the Constitution per se addresses indictment. The position of the Department of Justice applies to the Southern District of New York, and it applies to the special counsel. And that's been the position for almost half a century. But according to Stephen and all the other left-wing radical kooks out there, it ought to be changed, you see, because we hate Trump. And it just is so precious to hear leftists who hate the Constitution, who go on in our classrooms about how it was written and adopted by slave owners, wave the Constitution around. They can't get their argument straight. All right. Let's continue. Eugene, Parsippany, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I had one big point regarding the wall. I don't know if you remember, but when they created the healthcare.gov website, which they hired Canadian people to do, that was a big failure, and that cost almost $2 billion. Now Trump is only asking for double that for a wall.
Well, that's a good point. And let me tell you something. I want the whole world to understand this. I've been saying out loud before I left, and now I'm back, the President of the United States needs to give a 15-minute speech to the nation. He needs to explain why we need these barriers, what's happening to the country. He needs to also explain what an insignificant fraction of a percentage of the federal budget it is. They spend $4 trillion, really more than $4 trillion. This is $5 billion. They spend $5 billion on mustard in the federal government.
Wow.
$5 billion on nothing in the federal government. Now, you and I know that's a lot of money. But if Trump were to create a new program to redistribute wealth to illegal aliens and said, you know what, it ought to be $23 billion, the Democrats would line up right behind him. But when he says, you know what, we need a few down payments to secure our border. Now, and by the way, you saw that press conference. It was all over TV with Trump, Pelosi, and Schumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
this guy Schumer, he's hunched over. He looks bizarre. His skin is bizarre. He's a freak. He's a freak. And I look at him and I say, what kind of a, he ought to be an anchor on MSNBC. What's he doing there?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how they can be attractive to a certain sector of people.
Well, once you're elected in a one-party state like New York, it's hard to dislodge you. It's like Frankenfeinstein in California. It's hard to dislodge them. Schmucky Schumer, hard to dislodge. Menendez in New Jersey. These one-party blue states, I mean, they really are throwbacks to party first, country second of the Marxist mold. They really are. And that's what you saw. What you really saw in the Oval Office when Trump was dealing with Pelosi and Schumer were two individuals in Pelosi and Schumer who are not fighting for the country. They're fighting for their party. Because for them, the party is the country. The party is the government. The party is all things. That's how autocrats think. That's what they believe. All right, Eugene, thank you for your call. That was my father's middle name.